In just a few weeks, the College Football Playoff Committee is going to have a very tough decision, as there are a lot of very good candidates who could make it into the College Football Playoff. But me personally, I think it would be in the best interest of not only Michigan, but also the Big Ten if Michigan got into the College Football
Sick of them
Playoff.
sweatsuits and them corny hats, let's talk about it. I'm sick of you being rich and you still mad, let's talk about it.
If the College Football Playoff was to happen today, Michigan would actually be the 4th seed taking on the number 1 overall seed, Alabama. The first, in my opinion, major reason is Jim Harbaugh. A little backstory on Jim Harbaugh: he was the quarterback of the Michigan Wolverines from 1984 through 1986. Michigan finished 2nd in his final season, and he also finished 3rd in Heisman Trophy voting. Since Harbaugh took the Michigan job in 2015, Michigan is 36-12 overall. Another major reason why I think it's important that Michigan gets into the College Football Playoff is this. If Alabama wins out but loses in the championship game and Georgia wins out in general, then Georgia and Alabama will both have only 1 loss. And in a situation where UCF, Notre Dame, and Clemson all win out, and Georgia and Alabama are both sitting there with only 1 loss, there's a strong possibility that Georgia and Alabama will both pole vault UCF and Michigan to get into the College Football Playoff against unbeaten Notre Dame and unbeaten Clemson. Yes, 7 of the top 25 teams in the College Football Playoff poll are in the SEC, but that has a lot to do with how people still feel about the SEC. While some people realize that the dominance of the SEC is starting to waver and is starting to weaken, some people still see the SEC as this omnipotent juggernaut that is substantially better than any other conference in college football. Another big reason why Michigan getting into the College Football Playoff would be huge for the Big Ten is because it would mean that Michigan beat Ohio State. But the reason why I say Michigan beating Ohio State is actually good for the Big Ten, including Ohio State and Michigan's rivals in the Big Ten, is because it's all part of narrative. In 2014, LeBron James rejoined the Cleveland Cavaliers to help get Cleveland its first NBA title. There was a lot of teams that LeBron James hadn't burned ties with the owner with that could have paid LeBron James more or had a better supporting cast around him already. But the idea that an Akron-born player, who some consider to be the greatest player of all time, who was drafted number 1 overall by a team near his hometown called Cleveland Cavaliers, would return to Cleveland to help win its first title in over 50 years is insane for narrative. I'm not saying that Michigan just needs to get into the College Football Playoff regardless of how this stretch ends for them. Losses to Rutgers, Indiana, Ohio State, or in the Big Ten Championship mean that Michigan doesn't get into the College Football Playoff. It's as simple as that. But there's a lot of people saying that if Michigan wins out and a couple of other things happen, Michigan will miss the College Football Playoff. And I think because of the narrative of Jim Harbaugh and Michigan finally beating Ohio State, along with the idea that it sends the message from the College Football Playoff Committee to the rest of the nation that the SEC isn't as dominant as it used to be and won't continue to be as dominant as it was in the BCS era and this College Football Playoff era. And also, Michigan's resume just holds up for it. Now, this show isn't just meant for me to be talking at you guys, saying my opinion is right and all other opinions against it are wrong. So
Sick of them sweatsuits and them corny hats, let's talk about it. I'm sick of you being rich and you still mad, let's talk about it.